kicked out of Crook when I was 21, so I'm not even going to talk about that.
We've all been kicked out of the pub there, but if you've got kicked out of the whole town, you've done one better than most of us.
Thanks for attending, Amanda.
Thanks for having me.
We've obviously been talking about auctions, and we've called it auctions at arm's length. But the Sale Ezy platform, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so Sale Ezy has two distinct auction platforms. Our first one is our best offer system, which is a little bit more like private treaty. It feels a little bit more like private treaty and tender, but it is underpinned by that robustness and that commitment of auction conditions. And our second system is our public bidding system, which is to a timer, competitive bidders making public bids, and obviously the property knocked down to the highest bidder at the end of the auction if the highest bid has met reserve.
You've been around for a little while. People in Sydney may not have known it, but Sale Ezy's been kicking around for what, nearly 12 years?
12 years, yeah. So we're a family business, and the system was originally regionally developed, so regional New South Wales. It was developed in response to the request of one particular client, actually, who was looking for something 10 years ago that would enable his property to be sold, I guess, more further afield, because the country area was suffering so much from drought. So we kind of developed a solution to that problem, largely used the system internally for our family agency, and then 3 years ago started the very fun task of meticulously rebuilding it from scratch.
When you talk about your family agency, that used to be the professionals at Goulburn and primarily your dad, Alan, is that correct?
I think when this started, I think it was the professionals. He was Town and Country before that, and Elders before that, and Calm before that. But yeah, he was professionals for a very long time and has recently taken the plunge out of real estate, like most real estate agents do. He's still selling real estate in retirement, so...
Let's run through some of the process of what we call it. So you've obviously got online, so it's not interactive like an online streaming platform. But where does the contract for residential properties? Where does the contract sit?
So the contract sits within this system, and just to kind of address that concept of streaming. So as I said, our system started regionally, and because we were in regional New South Wales, we were acutely aware that at the time and currently now, there are so many internet connection black spots where people either get really poor internet connection or can't get internet connection at all. And, you know, I live in Maroubra in Sydney. My sister lives in Concord. Both of us have spots in our house where we can't stream video. So we were really conscious of making sure that we built a platform that enabled as many people from as many regions in Australia to access that system without needing to rely on being able to see a streamed video in order to participate and keep up with the auction. So that was really important to us. We wanted to make sure our system was not only obviously very useful in an urban environment, but can cater to those really unique needs of regional buyers, sellers and agents. So the contract itself, when an agent lists their property, they upload the contract into the system. It isn't made publicly available to anyone. It isn't published on the system for anyone to see. However, when a bidder does register and is approved by the agent in compliance with the state or territory laws, then the contract is sent out to them as a link and CC'd to the solicitor that they've nominated, so that the agent/auctioneer can be sure that the solicitor has also had the opportunity to view the contract.
So where's it amended? Is it amended within the Sale Ezy system, or is it done between solicitors?
So the contract that is uploaded into the system should be the final contract. If it is to be amended, it will be amended before the auction begins, and a new contract will be uploaded, which will be sent to those people who have registered to bid. In our best offer system, people can obviously make an offer with a condition, for example, 600,000 with a 6-month settlement. If that condition is accepted prior to the offer being accepted, then that condition is added verbatim to the contract at the end.
Okay, so it's available and that actually works. So your registration system, obviously you've got the standard registration system. Obviously New South Wales has the most unique registration system in terms of the rules we have to comply with. So what do you do about numbers?
Our numbers are automatically and randomly generated by our system. Every single one of them is unique, and when they're randomly generated upon approval from the auctioneer or agent, they're then allocated to the buyer. The auctioneer or agent obviously has to approve everybody who is registering to purchase or registering to bid in the auction or make an offer, and only at the point once they're approved is a number allocated to them.
Now you mentioned auctioneer. Now, we've heard from some people who said an auctioneer is not important to an online time site.
I actually disagree, and I disagree with that quite strongly. And I think our director, who has been a stand-up auctioneer for 30 years, and you know, this was his brainchild, this system, would strongly disagree. I would just say that psychologically it's different. Anybody who has been to an auction, but also who is an auctioneer, understands that there's a certain psychology that's involved in a successful auctioneer, in reading a room, in understanding how you work a crowd and how you massage out more bids and those sorts of things. In an online auction that doesn't require a stand-up auctioneer or a live stream, there's that psychology is still there, that need for momentum, that need to kind of massage. It's just done in a different way. It enables an auctioneer to contact buyers and bidders as they go along and talk to them, but also to start to read things like hesitation in how long it's taking to bid, which we recently saw in one of our auctions that an auctioneer really kind of drew on strategy to read what was happening and promote more bidding. So it's really the same as a stand-up auction. It's reading the room, it's reading what's happening, it's communicating with different buyers and bidders and working your strategy from that perspective.
We've always said, and there might have been a solicitor who might have said to your director at the time that it's important to have an auctioneer because you want the powers of execution and the enforceability which an auctioneer brings to the table. How does, the whole purpose of an auction is it has an end. How does it end?
So the auctions end in two different ways. So with Final Call, our public bidding system, it's the same as a standard stand-up auction. So we go through the set period. An auctioneer might set the auction to start, say, at 9 o'clock, and that main body of the auction to conclude at 9:15. At 9:15, first, second, and third call are called each for 30 seconds. So a minute and a half is added to the clock. If a bid is made at any point during first, second, and third call, it circles back and starts at first, second, third call again. So that means that everybody who wants to make a bid during that period has a minute and a half to enter their bid, to check it carefully, to have a quick conversation with, you know, the wife in the background who's telling them they definitely want that house before they submit their bid. So it circles back. At the point when you've gone through first, second, and third call and you've got no more bids, if the bid is above the reserve that's been set in the system, then the property will sell to the highest bidder. So the hammer will literally fall on screen.
Because auctions and agents often if there's something that happens to go wrong, it's always both of them are sued. What happens if I'm in Burke and it's going down at 9:15, at 9:13 I see a bid going at 850,000. I think, oh no, I'll put in 860, and my computer drops out and I don't get it in. What happens?
So our system has the capacity to add extra time to the auction if the auctioneer needs to. So we encourage auctioneers and agents to be in contact with the people who are bidding. They absolutely should be. They would be in a live auction situation. If you're in Burke, let's assume that your phone works. You call up the auctioneer and you say, look, I've just tried to put a bid in, but my computer's crashed. Then the auctioneer can add an extra 5 minutes to the clock to allow you enough time for, or probably in Burke, you might need a little bit more time, 10 minutes for your computer to reboot so that you can get that bid in there.
Well, that's interesting. So what you're saying is part of your auction, your Sale Ezy platform, you actually encourage your agents and auctioneers to stay in contact with their public and not just leave it open to cyberspace to do the job.
No, absolutely not. Look, you know, in a live stand-up auction, the auctioneer is communicating with, engaging with, interacting with the people who are potentially bidding or bidding. Likewise, the agents who own the listing or who have taken the listing are doing the same. So absolutely, we encourage you to be in contact with and talk to those people, partly also because it's not just agents and auctioneers who are transitioning from an online process, an offline process to an online process. It's also your buyers. So this is a real opportunity not only to, you know, help them through this process, it's an opportunity to build better relationships as well, to show them that you're not just transactional based, you are also really service based. And part of that service inclination is to make sure you're there to assist them through this transition as well.
So you've left open the human content. So the hammers drop down, your digital hammers splashed into the screen. How does a contract get executed?
So we've been advised, and I know that other people have had different advice, but we've been advised that not all states and territories in Australia at the moment can partake in electronic signature. We've kept that in mind. I guess with our system, we wanted to dot every I and cross every T and I guess take the letter of the law quite stringently. So we have a couple of different options. First and foremost, when a buyer registers through our system, they're asked to sign an agreement that they acknowledge that the auctioneer can sign on their behalf. Obviously, in most states and territories, that's protected by common law anyway. But to make sure the process is transparent and they know exactly what will happen, we like to have that form there for them to sign it, so they're really explicitly aware of it. So Hemmer Falls, the auctioneer, we would suggest contacts all parties anyway, and you know, ensures that they're comfortable with that process and then signs on their behalf and enacts exchange. Of course, you can always do a traditional exchange. So our director has had auctions end when he's actually in the paddock with one of the buyers, and so that buyer has been there to sign the contract, and then exchange has been able to occur straight away. We also have a signing page that a legal firm developed for us that is sent out to the participants, to the buyers and the sellers. They can sign that. They also sign an agreement that says that the original contract will be in the mail immediately. They email that back with a copy of the contract, pop the contract in the mail, and they can exchange using that emailed version. So there's a couple of different options. And I think largely that comes down to where you are and what kind of technology you have, what kind of access you have to town. Again, that's us considering you might have urban agents and urban buyers. You might have regional or rural agents or buyers.
And it sounds like your platform then is obviously across the country, Amanda. There's no state or territory that it won't function in.
No, and so our system has been applied quite consistently across the country. So we've tried to, well, we've obviously made sure we're compliant in each state and territory, but we've tried to make the process as consistent as possible across all of them. We're well aware, for example, in the Northern Territory that auctions can only take place, I think it's between 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. There's a restriction. So auctions obviously can't run across days in those instances. And so while it is the auctioneer or the agent's responsibility to ensure they understand the legislation in their state or territory, we're always very mindful of that and make sure that they have that guidance to go and do a little bit of research and make sure that they adhere to all legislation as required. You
guys have been around for a while. How many properties have sold through Sale Ezy?
You keep saying you guys have been around for a while. Al's been around for a while. I'm a spring chicken. So we started the process, as I said, about 12 years ago, used it largely internally. Over those years, I don't have an actual number for you, but hundreds of properties sold across regional regional Australia, Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria predominantly. We didn't introduce it into urban areas. Largely at that point, it was designed and used mostly by us and then by request by agents across regional, those 3 states regionally. Since then, we have only released our new system after building UX testing, pilot testing, legal testing for 3 years, about mid last year. So I think we've had about 100 properties through there since then. I suppose our process is a little bit different than some of the online auctions, where it might be a little bit more understandable if, particularly in the current environment, you had a live auction scheduled in, you might just transition to the online auction with a live stream. So we're kind of cognizant of the fact that it's a little bit more of a move for agents, and as such, you know, we try not to be pushy. We try to educate and make people aware of how it works and that transition.
Everyone else has been pushy. Just last question then. People do an auction. People
were doing it wrong.
People sell at auction really to get the best price they can. Have you got any statistics to show how a Sale Ezy online auction or tender operates in terms of getting a price in comparison to a public auction?
Obviously, you can't compare like for like. If it was sold on Sale Ezy, it wasn't sold traditionally. But to give you, we've got a lot of case studies and a lot of examples. To give you one, there was a property listed in regional New South Wales where there were 6 bidders registered. The bidding started on a Sunday. They started it off the cuff on a Sunday afternoon. I think it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That ran through for a couple of hours. That bid ended up going 150,000 above the set reserve. That set reserve was, you know, exactly what it should have been. So those results are fairly consistent across the system. I think it's also worth pointing out, however, that while users or buyers and sellers and agents do use the auction system to achieve the best price. With our best offer system, for us, it's also about commitment. So what we saw happening, particularly in regional New South Wales, but also a lot across regional Australia, but also a lot across urban areas over the last, 6 to 12 months since the Royal Banking Commission, was that you had a lot of buyers get to a certain point and then drop out. So you've got agents who have done a lot of work to get to this point, and they think they've sold the property, and then all of a sudden they drop out. They get no remuneration for that. They just basically have to start the process again. So with our best offer system that feels more like private treaty, they're putting in their offers, and those offers can be accepted. If an offer is accepted, it is accepted under auction conditions. So at that point, the buyer can't change their mind. They can't drop out as they did in a purchase I was making recently, because they just changed their mind and found something better. So there is that level of commitment that we think is really important, and probably is a better process now. And that's coming from the perspective of myself, who has just purchased. It's a better process now than private treaty. The buyer, the seller, and the agent really wants that commitment. They want that transparent, open communication, and to know when they've purchased, they've purchased.
Your dad tells me of a story once where he sold 2 properties in Crookwood.
He does a lot of stories, Bailey.
Interesting was he sold 2 properties next to each other, one by Sale Ezy, one which was the same, and they only sold, their purchase prices ended up $1,000 apart, which was interesting to show that Sale Ezy is durable in the marketplace. We want to make certain that we got somebody in who deals with the regional stuff. Amanda, thank you for your time, and thank you for coming on to visiting the Leverage Interactive Studios, as we call it. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, man.
Thank you so much for having me.